In this short presentation, we're going to be talking about the demand curve and why the demand curve is downward sloping. Now, we're going to start off by assuming that we are looking at the market for corn, and we are also going to assume that two of the factors, or at least one of the big factors that's going to determine people's purchasing of corn is going to be the price. And so we're going to look at the price, and then we're going to look at what we call quantity demanded. The quantity demanded is the amount of a good that buyers would be willing and able to buy at that given market price. So let's say, for example, we go out, we look at the market for corn, and 1 week we notice the price of corn is going for $8 per bushel. We also notice at $8 per bushel, there are some 10 million bushels of corn that will be demanded. We'll wait another week, we'll go out and we'll look at the price of corn. And let's say, for example, during that week, the going price of corn is going to be $6 per bushel. At $6 per bushel, we notice that there are 12.5 million bushels of corn demanded. And then finally, the third week we go out, we notice the price of corn has dropped even further, let's say down to $4 per bushel. And at $4 per bushel, buyers would be willing and able to buy some 15.8 million bushels of corn. So we have enough information now that we can go in and we can graph these points on our two-dimensional diagram. And in economics, what they end up doing is putting the price of the good on the vertical axis and the quantity that is being demanded on the horizontal axis. So if we go in and we just plot these points, and you could do this using a piece of graph paper as well, but if we go in and we assume the price of corn is $8 per bushel, we noticed then that there were only 10 million bushels of corn that were going to be purchased at that particular price. So that gave us the first point on our demand curve. If we go in and we look at the price of $6 per bushel, as the price went down, we notice the amount that buyers were willing and able to buy actually went up to some 12.5 million bushels. And then to go ahead and plot our last point, if we have $4 per bushel, then the quantity demanded went all the way up to some 15.8 million bushels of corn. So that gave us our third point. So when we go in and we connect the dots, then we have the downward slope of our demand curve. This is what we call the law of demand. Because when you go in and you start looking at the variables of price and quantity, those variables have what we call a negative relationship. What that means is that the variables, in this case of price and quantity, move in different directions. The variables of price and quantity move in different directions. So in other words, you notice from the data that we have up here, as the price went down, then the amount that buyers were willing and able to buy went up. If you started out at $4 and you increased the price up to $6 and then up to $8, so as the price of corn goes up, the quantity demanded of corn is going to go down. So that is what we call the law of demand. Now the reason that is, you want to think of the price that we have up here on top as being what we call a relative price. So in other words, ceteris paribus, if the price of corn starts out at $4, you would be willing and able to buy, given all the other goods and services you are consuming, your income, the prices of those goods and services, and so on. Consumers would be willing and able to buy 15.8 million bushels of corn. But as the price of that corn increases, ceteris paribus, all else constant, then corn is now relatively more expensive on the market. Therefore, people can buy as much as they did before, therefore the quantity demanded of corn is going to go down. So that, in essence, is your law of demand.